Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us at Awakening Heart Sangha on Sunday evening. We're so happy that some of you have decided to spend some time with us this evening. And if you've been in this kind of online service before, you know about the chat box. So if you would like to let us know you're here, that would be great. And maybe just and briefly say something you're grateful for, or something that you did today that was really pleasant, something that helped you kind of get through the day. So thank you, Christy, for joining in. Appreciate it. So we're going to do things just slightly different tonight. Of course, every online meeting is a little different. So tonight, um, our friend Jennifer Landon is going to give a talk for us. And in her talk, she's going to tell us about a meditation technique called Tonglen. And then she will guide us in that practice. The Tonglen practice is kind of like it's a version of meta-kindness meditation, but it's much more intense, I would say, and um, and also it's much more aligned with the breath, which in some ways makes it very, very powerful. So I'm really happy that Jennifer's going to share that with us tonight. And so I want to welcome Colin, um, Landon, and Colin. All right. They had a good walk this afternoon with Jennifer. Cool. Um, and Barbara Wilson is here. Stephanie, I'm grateful for a beautiful day and for getting to take care of all my plants. Um, and initially I read for and getting as forgetting, and I thought, uh-oh, but it's not that. You really did take care of your plants. And Jen Lee, glad to be here. Glad to have you here. Heather, um, Heather, thank you for sharing that you got around to creating some art this weekend. Um, and Lisa has enjoyed watching the birds in her bird feeder. I'm reading these because I think there are some of you that don't post, and I don't know if you're reading the post. So, and anyway, I just like to see everybody's name. So Rita has joined us, and Carrie, Billy Hong, Miles. Miles says she's at the John F. Burke Nature Preserve. That sounds nice. So already in the chat box, you notice that there's a link to the Zoom meeting, which we'll do following this part of our program. So I just, again, want to say thank you for being here. And we thought that at the very beginning here, we might begin with the Medicine Buddha chant. Again, remembering all the people that are ill, people who have lost loved ones. Actually, the whole planet needs this meditation. So I guess I would just say, call to mind wherever you want to direct this healing energy. And don't forget to include yourself. And we will chant the Medicine Buddha chant about 3 times as we begin our meditation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaishya Guru Vaidurya Prabarajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaishashe Vaishashe Mahavishashe Raja Samukate Svaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaishasha Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaishashe Vaishashe Mahavishashe Raja Samukate Svaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaishasha Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaishashe Vaishashe Mahavishashe Raja Samukate Svaha. Thank you. I thought during that chant about our theme for this month, which is present together. And even though you are not here in person, I do feel your presence. And it's not just because I'm looking at that number of people that are looking in. I really do sense your presence, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So we're going to do our affirmation now. And if you remember and want to chime in, please do that. Noble community, we gather here now to honor the way of peace and nonviolence, the way of wisdom and compassion, the way of joy and beauty. In solidarity with one another, with all humanity, and with all life on earth. Friends on the path, we gather here now to deepen our solidity like a mountain and to renew our freshness like a flower. Through mindful sitting and walking, mindful singing and breathing, and mindful speaking and listening. Family of awakening, family of awakening, we gather here now to celebrate the one infinite light that shines through many religions and many cultures, to cultivate the wisdom of our many teachers, both ancestral and contemporary, and to affirm the capacity within ourselves and all persons, both men and tradition, to realize full and complete enlightenment. So I just want to read one more thing before I turn the machine over to Jennifer. It is a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. He said, "Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being common to us all and to all living things. Evoking the presence of the great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion towards ourselves and towards all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life, and of the suffering that is going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. So let's welcome Jennifer. Jennifer Landon is a Sangha member and an Order of Interbeing aspirant. And Jennifer wants to share with you some things about meditation and yes. So here's Jennifer.
Hello, Ty, and brothers and sisters and family. I bow to you. I'm so thrilled to be able to sit here today and share with you the Tonglen practice. Um, Tonglen is Tonglen, and it's a beautiful practice that's brought to us from the Tibetan tradition. And as I was preparing to do this talk today, I became very aware of my gratitude for our ancestors and for our teachers that have brought um, this and many meditations down through the ages, thousands of years, to land in our laps here today. And it's such a privilege. I feel it's such a privilege to have access to this material. It used to be just people that were in the monasteries around the world in all different types of religious sects that would have uh, access to this material. And now we have it for us, for everybody. And people like Thich Nhat Hanh were, excuse me, people like Thich Nhat Hanh brought it here so that we could understand it and practice it as well. So I want to encourage you today in your practice because there's so many more people now that are able to do these practices. And so we're like little lights that are lighting up the world. And just earlier, we did the Buddhist medicine chant. And uh, really, what they say about chanting is that those vibrations move out into the universe and out into the cosmos and catch people all around the world doing those same vibrations. And it begins to swirl around and catch love, compassion, truth, and kindness. And so that's a lot of what we're doing today with our meditation as well. We are creating an energy, and that energy is going to go out. And I wanted to encourage you that even though you're at home and many of you are just practicing solo, you're really not alone. The energy that you're creating from your meditation is vibrating and moving out and and expanding through the world and bringing us the qualities that we want to see in the world. So don't feel alone, feel connected. Remember that people have been doing these practices for thousands of years, and and that all that vibration and all that energy is in our world, and it makes a difference. And the other thing that I wanted to encourage you with today too is uh, to bring a dignified presence to this teaching because it's something that is sacred. And so I just want to encourage you if you are anything like I am, sometimes when I'm listening to things, I tend to multitask and I might be doing the dishes and I'll just listen while I do the dishes or while I, you know, make my bed or something. But I just want to encourage you right now to just put all that aside and to find a really comfortable spot in your home where you feel at ease and allow your heart to open up to this practice. It's a very profound practice. And to enter into it with a sense of sacredness. Hmm. Hmm. So today I'll be talking about Tonglen, and I got this information from Pema Chodron, and she learned it from her teacher and in her ancestral lineage. And so it's my privilege to take what I've learned from listening to her and pass it on to you. Um, Tonglen is a meditation practice. It's a practice of great compassion, really big compassion, the greatest compassion, a compassion compared to nothing else. It's a compassion with steroids. It's a very deep and profound compassion meditation. But I wanted to talk with you first about why am I doing this now? So I think you have realized that we are in a sort of a isolation now, and there's a lot happening around the world. And as we've watched what's going on around the world, it's sometimes a lot to take in. It's overwhelming. And we're going on a lot of weeks of it, of just this watching and feeling and experiencing what's happening around the world. So the experiencing of watching suffering and not being able to do anything is a trauma, or it can be. It's called witness trauma, vicarious trauma, secondary or indirect trauma, or some people call it bearing witness. Christy Pickowicka, PhD, says in legal terms, witness is derived from a root meaning to bear in mind, to remember, to be careful. A witness in this light can be defined as one who has knowledge of something by recollection and experience, and who can tell about it accurately. By this definition, we are all witnesses for one another, whether or not by choice. So we are witnesses to the suffering of others. This can happen in a large context, as in COVID-19, or in a smaller context, as in seeing a homeless person who appears hungry and cold. And this has become even more profound with our ability to see and hear about traumas around the world. We're really exposed, so we're witnessing a lot. As this COVID-19 epidemic began to unfold, I began to see the fear that started taking over the planet. And this was for good reason. The virus is very serious. And we all faced a dichotomy. We were not able to activate and go forth to assist our neighbors, our friends, and our loved ones, which is what we would normally do under these circumstances. But instead, we had to cope by isolating and stopping and staying put. And if you think about our biological nature to respond to stress, you will remember that we respond to stress by fight, flight, or freeze. This is usually not a choice. Our biology takes over, and our body goes into one of these three modes of responding to keep us safe, to keep us alive. In flight, we are able to move our muscles and our body. We're running, we're moving, we're feeling it in our body, and we're moving energy that way. However, with these current events, we are told to freeze. In other words, the best way to help is to isolate, stay away, and have zero contact. That's a pretty tall order. That leaves the experience frozen in our bodies, in our bones, in our muscles, and in our heart. We witness it, but for many of us, it's not actually happening to us. So this leaves us feeling helpless. So what can we do? Again, moving in action helps move the energy of this helplessness. So sometimes we give money, sometimes we pray, we journal, and we create artwork, and we talk to each other. As I was thinking about this, I remember that in the aftermath of 9/11, I rode my bike around White Rock Lake, and I screamed and howled into the air and cried. I let it all out on that bike path. And it was a very quiet day. It was deserted. People were in their homes mourning. The airplanes were not flying. So there was this quiet presence. And I felt like the lake received my sorrow, as lakes do. They're very receptive. And then I also found an old mailbox. It was a kind of a battered up mailbox. And I mosaicked the mailbox with the American flag. And that was really helpful. I took time and really got some potteries and banged the heck out of the pottery and shattered it into a million pieces. That felt very good. And then I mosaicked it onto the mailbox and created this flag. It took me about 2 weeks. And the truth is, it was really ugly, but but it served the purpose. I felt better after doing that kind of a project. So freezing is really hard, and it's helpful when we do something in action. Well, 9/11 happened before I was a meditator, but now I realize that meditators have access to profound ways of processing and interacting with the difficulties of our lives. We have meditation. In our meditation practice, we can practice metta or love or compassion meditations for the times that we are witnessing suffering. So this is the deal with compassion meditation. It requires a willingness to connect to, or as Pema Chodron says, to open up to that vulnerable space within inside of us, or she calls it a soft spot, or vulnerable spot. So compassion means opening up to your own vulnerable soft spot. And here at the center, we have a song, and it's the words, some of the words are, there is a crack in everything. That is how the light gets in. It's based on a Leonard Cohen song, and the words to the Plum Village version of this songs are, forget your perfect offering, there's still a bell that we can ring. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. So Bobby and Cornell have generously offered to sing this in the middle of the talk. So I'm going to pass it back to her. We'll sing it, and then we'll go back to the talk.
Okay. So, how did you do the third line? Because I don't remember singing it that way.
Oh,
There,
forget your perfect offering. There's still a bell that we can ring.
there's
a crack.
still a bell that we can ring. Okay.
Do you want to see the word?
No, I think I can remember it. Okay, so this is a call and response. And so if you're comfortable with doing this all by yourself, then repeat after me. Forget your perfect offering.
Forget your perfect offering.
Just ring the bell that still can ring.
Just ring the bell that still can ring.
There is a crack in everything.
There is a crack in everything.
That's how that's the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. Can I do it one more time?
Let's do it.
Kind of messed up. Forget your perfect offering.
Forget your perfect offering.
Just ring the bell that still can ring.
Just ring the bell that still can ring.
There is a crack in everything.
There is a crack in everything.
That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in.
Thank you, Bobby, for that. So it adds a little spice. Okay. And so we allow the vulnerable spot. When we bend toward our own suffering and the suffering of others, this is a place where the light gets in. We do this from a place of being grounded, tender, full of gratitude and love. The idea here is to lean into the feelings that arise, to become familiar with those feelings and the desire we often have to close it down. And we breathe with it. Lean into the feelings and we breathe with it. So I will share with you the Tonglen practices and the steps to it. And I'll be sending these to the center, the steps to this practice, so that if you want to review this or practice on your own, you'll have the steps. And I'll send that to the office and we'll get it out in the newsletter for you. Okay. So for today's practice, I would like for us to make the focus COVID-19. You can do this practice for anybody and anything, as I mentioned, but together as a community, let's practice on COVID-19. And I'll explain a little bit more of that later. But Tonglen means giving and receiving, sending and taking. So the essence of Tonglen is when we feel or see suffering, we breathe it in and accept it completely. When we breathe out compassion and loving kindness, opening up to the enjoying our own life. So essentially, it is breathing in suffering and breathing out joy. Now, this is a very important point, and I want you to take note of this. When you breathe in the suffering, and by the way, you breathe it in through every pore of your body, every ounce of your body, you're breathing in the suffering. And when you breathe that in, there is no place for it to get stuck. When you breathe out, everything leaves. So this is a very important point. There's no place that it gets stuck. You breathe in the suffering, and when you breathe out, it breathes out everything fully and completely. So you don't have to worry about that. So if you think about it this way, our energy is always changing. There's a Greek philosopher who said, "You can never step into the same river, for new waters are always flowing over you. No man ever steps into the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." So each in-breath and out-breath is a new energy. Nothing gets stuck. Put that as a big billboard in your mind as you're doing the meditation. Nothing gets stuck. So we begin by opening up to the pain and suffering, letting it into our hearts and into the soft, vulnerable spot. And that is where it's transformed into compassion. And that is what you breathe out. When you breathe out, nothing can obstruct it. Nothing can block it. It goes in every pore of your body and out every pore. Out your back, out everywhere. Pima compares this to Tibetan flags, which I have a show and tell. So I brought the Tibetan flags that I have in my backyard. Aren't they beautiful? And so the idea with Tibetan flags are that there's prayers and offerings of goodwill and kindness and compassion and love for the world. And when you hang them out, the wind blows through them. Visual. And takes these prayers and these goodwills and compassion that's written on these words in the fabric out into the four corners of the world. That's really what we're doing with this practice. We are breathing out joy and love to the four corners of the world, just as the Tibetan flags do. And with Tibetan flags, you really want them to get ragged and rugged, because that means that the wind is taking it and moving it. And so you'll see Tibetan flags in all sorts of different states of being, and that's good. Okay. All right. So there's 4 stages of the Tonglen practice, and I'm going to review those, and then, as mentioned, we'll do the practice and I'll guide us through that. First, rest your mind briefly for a second or two in a state of openness and stillness to spaciousness and clarity. Some people do this by thinking of the vast night sky or the vast ocean. So we take a moment to think spaciously. Then second, we work with texture. So breathing in, we breathe in a feeling of hot, dark, and heavy. So think of that texture, dark, hot, heavy. I think of it sometimes as like soot. I think that's a word. Like from the fireplace, kind of like that. And then when you breathe out cool, bright, and light, a sense of freshness. So breathing in completely through all the pores of your body and breathing out, radiate out completely through all the pores of your body. Radiate out to the ends of the earth. And do this until you're feeling synchronized. So at first, we're really just working with the texture, breathing in and breathing out, and getting that rhythm in our bodies. And then the third and the fourth steps are done simultaneously if you can, but I'll separate them. Third, we work with a personal situation, any painful situation that's real to you. So in our case today, we're going to concentrate on some aspect of COVID-19 that is touching you personally. So it could be that you know someone who is suffering or who has suffered from the virus, or you may know someone who is the caretaker of someone suffering or family member. Or you may just be watching the news and seeing the stories of people that are suffering from troubles with employment and finances and that kind of thing. That's suffering too. So maybe you also know an essential worker who is facing this every day. I have a friend who is an essential worker and it's been very hard for her. Or you maybe have a neighbor that is suffering from fear, afraid to go outside. I also am experiencing that in my neighborhood, and she's suffering quite a bit. So I would like for you to take a moment and pick a focus of your practice today, a particular person or situation that you want to practice on with the COVID-19 situation. Okay. And then finally, make the taking in and the sending out bigger. If you're doing Tonglen for someone who has COVID-19 or who is a first responder, extend it to all people who have COVID-19 or all people who are responders. Make it bigger than just the one person. Okay, this part is also very important. Sometimes as we're doing this practice, our own personal feelings arise. So for instance, you may be focusing on a caretaker, and as you breathe, you begin to feel angry that maybe when you were sick, no one was there to take care of you. So at this point, you can do the practice for the anger you are feeling, and simultaneously for all of those who suffer like you from anger. You breathe that in for yourself and all the others in the same boat. And you send out calmness, peace, comfort, and connection. So this is where you really connect with your vulnerable part, your soft spot. If something arises to you as you're doing this practice, you move it to that. And you breathe in for yourself and that experience that you're having, the suffering you're having, and for all people who suffer in this way, and breathe out joy, light. So, just to be clear, some personal pain or experience may activate within you, and so you move to do that in your practice. So, in this practice, we open our minds to expansiveness beyond bias and prejudice, and we open our hearts to overcoming the fear of feeling. I'll repeat that one more time. We open our minds to expansiveness beyond bias and prejudice, and we open our hearts to overcome the fear of feeling. Pema says, Tonglen can extend infinitely. As you do the practice gradually over time, your compassion naturally expands, and so does your realization that things are not as solid as you thought. As you do this practice, gradually at your own pace, you will be surprised to find yourself more and more able to be there for others, even in what seems to be impossible situations. And before we begin our practice, I'd like to just share this quote from our teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. He says, "The ocean of suffering is immense, but if you turn around, you can see the land. So remember, the land is our out-breath and nothing is stuck." Lastly, I just want to say, if you are not up for doing this practice today, if for some reason you're feeling too vulnerable or you just, doesn't feel right for you, then by all means, just do your own practice and join back up with us in about 20 minutes for much more community. And then for anyone who has not sat, I would like to suggest this book by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's The Miracle of Mindfulness, and it gives excellent instruction on how to do breathing meditation. Okay, so I think Bobby's gonna sing a little something, and then we're gonna start with our meditation.
So if you'd like to stand and stretch or do a little very brief mindful walking, you might do that while I sing, and maybe you sing with me as you walk. I'm going to do, I have arrived, I am home. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I am solid, I am free. I am solid, I am free. In the ultimate I dwell. In the ultimate I dwell. I have arrived, I am home. In the here and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I am solid, I am free. I am solid, I am free. In the ultimate I dwell. In the ultimate I dwell.
Thank you, Bobby and Cornell. Okay. Hello, everybody, again. Bowing into you. Okay, so I would like for you to find your seat, whether it be on the cushion or in a chair, someplace that you feel very at ease, comfortable. And before you close your eyes, I would like you to briefly look up and away. Look into the expansiveness of the room or look outside your window. And then closing your eyes now, rest your mind in a state of openness and stillness. Sitting now in your body, your feet firmly on the floor if you're sitting in a chair, or feeling your body on the cushion, your hips resting evenly over your shoulders aligned with your hips, the crown of your head reaching up while your chin is slightly tucked. Your mouth is relaxed, your jaw is unhinged. Your tongue may be resting behind your front teeth. Your brow is smooth. And you take a moment to again come into your body and relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, relax your brow. And begin to bring attention to your in and out breath without changing it in any way. Just noticing the quality of the breath as it goes in and the breath as it goes out. And feel it in your body. You may feel it at your nostril, or your chest, maybe down into your belly. Breathing in and breathing out, relaxing into this moment. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. If your mind has wandered, bring it back to just relaxing in this moment, allowing yourself to restore, rejuvenate with each breath, feeling it in your body. And now you can begin to breathe in a feeling of hot, dark, and heavy. And breathe out a feeling of cool, bright, and light, a sense of freshness. You're just working with the texture here, So breathe in completely through all your pores of your body, hot, dark, and heavy. And breathe out and radiate out completely fresh joy through all the pores of your body and your back. Begin now to visualize and work with the person or the situation that you chose. This is someone that you care about and wish to help regarding COVID-19. Breathe in their suffering and breathe out joy. And now make the taking in and the sending out bigger. Extend it to all those who are in the same situation as your friend. Make it bigger than just the one person. If something personal has arisen in you, some personal pain, continue to do the practice for the pain that you are feeling and simultaneously for all those just like you who feel that same kind of suffering. So continue with whatever the practice is. middle of the practice, release your concentrated breath and come back into feeling your body on the cushion, hearing the sounds around you in the room, and just gently breathe without any concentration, just coming back into your own body. Thank you, everyone, for your beautiful practice tonight.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. So I'm in that place where I'm still in the meditation and I don't really want to talk. um, so I would invite you to, if you don't see the link for Zoom, to kind of scroll up in the chat box and you'll find it. I really hope that all of you will join us there because it's just such a great opportunity to see each other and to be able to share in your talk, and to share with one another by talking to us. It's maybe not as convenient or easy as when we're in person, but it's certainly better than nothing. So I hope you will join us there. So we're going to close this part of our meeting with the closing chant that we usually use. And so I invite you to chant that with me. Countless beings we vow to free, ceaseless afflictions we vow to end, limitless truth doors we vow to open, the deepest paths of awakening we vow to realize. Again, thank you for being here, and we will scoot over to Zoom. And I just want to say also that in this time when we can't be present, it's probably even more important if you can contribute any amount to help us continue to provide this service, to keep the building in shape so that it'll be here when we can come back. We need to still pay the water bill and the electric bill and the rent. So please contribute whatever amount you can. And keep in mind that on May the 5th, there will be a very special campaign put on by the Giving Texas community. And you can read about that in an email that we sent out to everybody. But basically, a few organizations have come together to offer some funding, but it's up to us then to contribute. And we also, as a Dallas Meditation Center community, we have collected some matching grant funds so that when you donate on that day, your donation is doubled. So contribute now, if you will, and then contribute again on May the 5th. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And I'm going to end this part of the broadcast and follow you over to Zoom. So goodbye and have a great evening. And I look forward to seeing you in the next space.